So let's start with the lesson 21 or the module 4 in Arduino level 1. This is the lesson 21. Okay, so this is actually the potentiometer and the LED. Yan. So we will try to at least explore the circuit later on. Mag-introduce ako sa inyo ng circuit, how to use a potentiometer, and this time with an LED. Diba? And uh, do you think it will work? Of course, this will actually work. And just a review, what's the purpose of potentiometer? Again, it simply divides the voltage. Diba? It simply divides the voltage in the circuit. So, pwede ka kasing mag-adjust ng volume, mag-adjust ng brightness and anything. So, in terms of the LED light, potentiometer actually divides the amount of voltage that is being used in lighting the LED. As simple as that. So, let's try to do this. Siguro on your own, yan, try nyo gawin to, no? Nasaan ba yung ano natin? Create tayo dito. Ito. Ginawa ko na, prepare ko na yung ating Tinkercad. Yan. So, as you can see here, we have prepared the breadboard. Yan. We have prepared here the breadboard. We also have here the Arduino microcontroller. Tapos, meron tayo ditong potentiometer. Tapos, we have an LED. We have a resistor. And so on. So dito, let's try to start with the LED first. So I want you guys to at least do this habang dinidiscuss ko to. So dito sa part ito, we have an LED. Yan. Again, the anode, we have placed an anode or a resistor just beside the anode. Tapos nilagay natin yan kay negative. Okay? So nilagay natin yan kay negative. The cathode here, nilagay natin kay number 13. Kay pin number 13. So, cathode is actually in pin number 13. And we also have here the potentiometer. Okay? The potentiometer, we have 3 different terminals. We have terminal 1, the wiper, and terminal 2. Now, you have to make sure that the terminal 1, is actually pointed in the positive side of your breadboard. Nandito. Positive side ng breadboard natin. The wiper, you always have to make sure that the wiper is actually pointed out in the analog pin. Any analog pin na pwede nyong ilagay dito. So A1, A0, A1, A2, A3, A4, A5. And of course, the terminal number 2 is placed in the negative part, which is of course, when we say negative, nandito yan kay 5 volts. Okay? And meanwhile, the GND or the ground is of course, nandito kay positive yan, naka-jump yan both kay LED and kay potentiometer natin. So, baka nagtataka kayo, what's the difference between digital pins and analog pins? I actually forgot to mention this one, no? When we say digital pins, the only output that it can produce are highs and lows. Ones and zeros lang. Okay? High and low lang kapag ka-digital. When we say analog pin or analog input, meaning we can output a specific value to it. Nagets ba natin yun? So, pwede na tayong makapag-output ng specific value using the analog pins. Alright, so kapag ka nag-a-adjust tayo ng brightness, it's better if you use analog pins. So, dito, para ma-adjust natin yung value ng LED natin. So, let's go ahead and go dito sa my code natin. Punta tayo dito, no? Sa code natin. So, for the code, it's actually very easy. Ayan. The code is very easy. All you have to do, number 1, is of course, declare a variable for the LED. In this case, nakalagay si LED kanino kay number 13. So, yan lang natin yung number 9 na yan. We also have declared another variable which is a pot pin, which is 0. This is only for the purpose of like an additional pin later on. Pero in reality, wala naman talaga tong parang gagamitin natin dito yan kay A0. Nandito. Okay? So, we have here the pot pin A0 or 0. Pwede ganyan. Pero for the meantime, dito muna sa 0. So, inside your void setup, is where you will now be placing, of course, the pin mode. What will happen? So, the LED will now produce an output. Turn on, turn off. And inside the void loop, di ba napansin nyo, napakadali lang naman ang programming ng ng Arduino, hindi siya ganun ka-complicated unlike pag nagpo-program tayo ng Java 2D. Yeah? Now for the void loop, this is somehow a different scenario because you have to place and you have to actually put the value of the pot pin dito. Okay, yung value na ilalagay natin pag inikot na natin si potentiometer, ilalagay natin yung value na nare-read niya from the analog to the val variable inside the loop. So nag-change yan every now and then. Now, the val value here will now use or call the map function, which is actually in a built-in function in Arduino, which will now simply determine the brightness and the lightness, how dim or how bright the color. Okay? So, ang value natin dito starting from 1 to 1024, which is 2 raised to 8, 1 and 1 to 255, which is also, yan. Diba? So, this is actually the colors, number of colors. So, punta tayo dito kay analog write natin. Let's try to write. We have the LED, which is 13, and of course, the value na nilabas niya. So, every time na iniikot natin kasi si analog rate natin, that will serve as, of course, the brightness. Diba? So, parang ito yung magiging maximum brightness niyan. So, try natin tong ilagay ngayon sa code natin. Ayan. So, kapag ka ini-start yung simulation dyan, ayan. Ayan, diba? So, umiikot naman. Nakikita ninyo na nag-a-adjust din yung color. Ayan. Nag-a-adjust yung color natin. Yung LED lights natin. Diba? So, napakadali. Napaka-iksi lang naman ng code natin ng potentiometer and this one. Ayan. Kung napansin nyo, change ko rin yung pot pin into 0 or A0. Yan. Pwede rin naman siyang gumana. Kasi ang binabasa niya lang is all about analog read. Alright? So, it's a very easy example. This is how you control a potentiometer together with an LED. I think I have also prepared here another or alternative way on how to create or how to control the LED. Tingnan natin, no? LED and potentiometer. Pero this is kind of advanced. So, siguro saka na natin ito pag-uusapan. Pero ipakita ko lang muna sa inyo. You can also control the brightness of the I2C display. And so, you can actually print a message. So, you can print a message. Tapos, let's see. Yan, yeah? So, pwede mong i-control si message. You can also turn or, yan, maximize the brightness or minimize the brightness. And so, possible po yan using potentiometers. So, di bale, pupunta naman tayo sa part na to. Papunta pa lang tayo sa may exciting part sa finals. Di ba? So, pagka finals, I will introduce to you the sensors that we have. Yan, including, of course, the liquid crystal display. So, this one. So, madali lang naman maglagay ng ano dito. Ng tawag dito ng mga pins for the liquid crystal display. Alright, so that's actually how potentiometer works in Arduino. So, think of a project in which you think potentiometer can be applied, di ba? In any project. Say for example, sa immersion nyo nga, think of a project that will somehow or have a functionality where once you adjust the potentiometer, something will happen. Yan. So, it's all up to you. Try to think of a project related to that one. Next, another combination project here is this time we have an LED. And we have an LED, we have a potentiometer, and of course, a serial monitor. Okay, nandito na tayo. So, we will try to print out and we will try to simulate something in our Arduino, pero this time, we will try to check the values using a potentiometer and a serial monitor. So we have here a very basic code or circuits. So it looks something like this. If you have your laptops with you, you may want to take a screenshot of this one para at least makita ninyo kung paano ko siya ginawa. So we have here the potentiometer. The terminal 1 is in the positive. The wiper is in A0. The terminal 2 is in 5 volts. The LED, the anode is in pin number 9. The cathode this time, naka-resistor yan kay positive. And the positive, nilagay ko dito kay GND. So possible po mangyari yan. Alright, so let's try to see the code. This is also very easy. The code is actually very easy to do. Let me open this one. Okay, for the code, all you have to do is of course do the following. Maiksi lang din naman yung code nito. Number 1, let's declare or create na tayo ulit. And let's declare here a variable. Number 1, let's declare the variable. Let's say this is PT meter. Ang PT meter, I'll point that out to A0. Kay A0 natin po-point out dito. Yan. Ilagay din natin si LED pin. Point natin niya kay number 9. Tapos the value, let's leave the PT value as, or the potentiometer value in long term as null. So, wala pa munang value yan. So, dito kasi natin lalagay yung value ni potentiometer every time na iniikot natin. So, this time, inside the void setup, since we are using a serial monitor, we have to put the serial that begin 9600. The serial that begin that 9600 is actually the default baud rate of our serial monitor. So, saka na natin pag-uusapan kung ano nga ba ang mga baud rates natin ng serial monitor. So, you can also have here another pin mode for the LED, which is, of course, an output. Diba? So, you have a setup, and this time, you have a loop. So, for the loop, madali lang din yan. So, we will try to read the value of potentiometer that is analog read. Diba? So, i-read natin yung i-read natin? Si potentiometer, which has a variable of PT meter nandito. So, whatever value na ginagalaw natin or pinupunta natin dito kay potentiometer, it will now be stored in the PT val. Yeah, in the PT val, what do you call this one? Variable. Now, here's the magic. The LED value, I'll declare here an LED value. Okay? Nakalimutan ko mag-declare dito. I would like to declare a variable this time long kasi baka mas madaming value ang lumabas. That's LED value. The LED value will now be multiplied by the PT value multiplied by at least 25% or 0.2490. So you might as well try to change the value. This mamaya try natin, no, pero this is actually the default, the 25% default na i-multiply ko yung value ni analog read dito. Kung ano man yung maikot or maging value pag ikot, it will now be multiplied by 25%. Tingnan natin kung bakit. Okay? That's why pasok natin si serial.print line natin. And let's try to print the value of the LED, and this time i-write natin si LED pin. And let's write the LED pin and of course the LED value. So ang LED value natin dito, this time, tignan nyo ha, hindi lang siya highs and lows. Nagiging value na siya. So specific value. So let's try to run this one and simulate natin. Yan, may error ako dito, no? LED, hindi siya LED. Dapat this should be LED pin. Ayan. So, let's go ahead and check kung gumagana nga ba ang ating project. So, we have a serial monitor here. As of the moment, the values is still 0. Let's try to adjust. Ayun. Diba? Nagmo-move pataas ng pataas si potentiometer natin. Nagmo-move din yung value hanggang ma-reach niya si, ano yung pinaka-maximum? 254 or 255. Hindi lang ito magpakita dito. In a physical Arduino kit, that is 255. That's the reason why we have multiplied that to 0.2490. 'Di ba ang value kasi ng ating mga decimal and binary numbers are from 0 to 128. 'Di ba? Tinuruan ko kayong kung paano mag-convert ng binary numbers. We have 2 raised to 0, 2 raised to 1, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 1, 2, 8, 2, 5, 6. 'Di ba? So, there you go. Everything is actually in binary. So, kapag nag-a-adjust tayo dito, ayan, nagbabago rin yung value. Now, pwede nating tanggalin to. Tingnan natin kung ano nga ba ang mangyayari kapag tinanggal natin si 0.249 na nag-multiply kay PT-val. Ayun. So kung napansin natin, medyo mataas yung value until 1024 na yung value. So from 1 or 0, from 0 to 1024. But unfortunately, hindi talaga to totally pagka sa physical Arduino kit, hindi nyo makikita sa ngayon yung, dito kasi hindi siya accurate eh. Pero sa physical Arduino kit, makikita nyo na umiilaw talaga si LED natin. Umiilaw talaga si LED natin. So, yeah, that's the reason why we have multiplied the PT value in 2 multiplied by 0.2490. Para at least maano lang, hanggang 255 lang yung value. So, this time, if for example, gumagawa kayo ng project na kapag na-reach niya yung specific na value, like, halimbawa kapag todo, 'di ba? Kapag na-reach niya yung value na if the PT val reached a value of, siyempre gagawa na kayo ng if-else condition dito. Or the LED value, if the LED value reached a maximum volume greater than or equal to, like for example, 128, and at the same time, if you have reached a value of LED val less than 255, less than or equal to 255, of course, something will happen. Diba? So, ganyan lang naman kung paano gumawa ng condition para ka lang din namang nagpo-program sa Java. Ayan, oh. So, if you have reached an LED value greater than 128 and at the same time less than 255, of course, something should happen here. Like, sobrang lakas ng tunog, pre. Parang ganyan, di ba? So, that is possible in Arduino Sketch. Diba? Try natin. Ayan, sobrang lakas ng tunog, pre. So, kapag binaba natin, yan, chill lang. Kapag inangat ulit natin, nagpiprint yung value. So, pwede kayong gumawa ng project na related sa potentiometer. And this time, you have to fully utilize the use of serial monitors in Arduino. Okay ba yan? Any questions so far? Sabi ko sa inyo, mabilis lang yung discussion natin today. Any question? Wala naman. Okay. So, let's move on with our next project here, or the next lesson, which is the lesson 23. This time we have a buzzer, a push button switch, and of course, that is what we call the combination project. Okay? So, gagawa tayo dito ng napaka-simple na buzzer and push button switch. So, this one. What are the following images? Ano nga ba itong mga to? What image is being formed? This is actually a piano, like a toy piano. We also have here of course, a doorbell and an MP3 player. Diba? So, these devices actually make sounds. And baka nagtatanong kayo, how do these devices actually make sound? It simply consists of a device that can produce a sound, and it consists of what we call buzzer. And I have introduced buzzer to you last week. Diba? That buzz every time you hit a button. So, what is present in these devices that can cause and can make a sound? A buzzer, and at the same time, a speaker and a button. So, the purpose or the use of a button is actually will turn on and will turn off the device at the same time. So, meron kang button. Sa lahat ng ito, meron kang button. Actually, your performance check for this module is actually for you to create a piano. Diba? You will be creating a piano with 7 buttons, and you will now be producing a do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do sound. So, papakita ko sa inyo, igagawin natin yung first 3 buttons, itutuloy nyo na lang. Diba? Papakita ko rin sa inyo kung paano natin gagawin. Now, how produced sound does it actually related to pushing a button? It's very simple. The device can produce sound when hitting a button, or the device will turn on, causing it to make a sound. A very simple logic, diba? So you have a button, once you press on the button, the sound will automatically turn on. As simple as that. So using what we call a combination project here, or the Tinkercad, we have a buzzer plus a push button switch. Ito na lang, dito tayo magpunta sa may example natin. So, this is lesson number 23. Let me show you my lesson number 23, how it is actually being made. Punta tayo dito. Ayan. I hope you are taking some screenshots and rewatching the uploaded version of our discussion for today. Kasi mas maganda yung quality pag na-upload sa YouTube, di ba? Mas HD, mas high def siya. So, mas maganda siyang screenshot. Pero for the meantime, pwede nating gawin ito. So, you have an Arduino microcontroller, you have the breadboard, you have the button, you have the buzzer. Diba? Now, take a look. The buzzer has positive and negative. Medyo magulo lang yung pagkaka-wiring ko dito, pero this is simple. Ito kasi medyo baliktad eh. Okay? Medyo baliktad yun nandito sa may PowerPoint presentation ko, because the positive is actually on the right side and the negative is on the left side. In Tinkercad, the positive is on the left side and the negative is on the left side. So, dito tayo. Sa Tinkercad tayo. The negative should always be, of course, should always be black or has a black wire. So, si negative, kinonect ko yan kay positive dito kay breadboard natin. And the positive is actually connected to the ground. So, si negative, connected kay ground dito. Now, si positive is now connected, number 1, connected yan kay pin number 7. Okay? And at the same time, connected din po yan, related din po yan kay buzzer. Ito. I mean, si kay button. So, again, sa positive, I connected the positive pin in the number 7 pin, digital pin number 7, and at the same time, I connected this one in the terminal 2B of our button. So, nandito siya sa tapat lang ni terminal 2B. So, in the button, we have here the terminal 1A, which is connected to the negative, and the negative is always connected to the 5 volts of our Arduino board. Siya kasi yung magpa-power, siya yung magbibigay ng power sa may, sa may device natin or sa may sensor natin. Okay? So, dito yan. We also have here, let's say, okay na itong terminal 1A. Terminal 2A doesn't do anything. The terminal 2B is connected to positive. The terminal 1B is now connected to the pin number 12. As simple as that. Diba? Connected siya sa pin number 12. Now, in order for us to have a better understanding on how the programming works in this one, punta tayo dito. So, kay setup and kay loop. So, again, focus first on the declaration of variables. We have here buzzer 7. Okay. And we have here an in pin, which is in 12. Okay. Yung 12 natin, button pin yan. Okay. And si value. Yan, si value. So, inside the void setup, this is now where we'll be placing the pin mode. Kumbaga, the setup. And the pin mode of the following. Now, since the pin mode of in pin 12 is actually all about button, of course, that is not an output but rather an input. So, simple lang. Dito kay loop natin, let's try to read the value, digital read in pin. Yan, let's read the value of in pin, yung number 12, pag pinindot. So, ano nga ba ang pinindot dito? Ano ang value na nare-receive niya? 1 and 0. Or, therefore, high and low lang. Diba? If pumindot tayo dito and naging low, or gusto nyo, i-print natin si serial.println. Lagay tayo dito ng serial.begin para makita ninyo kung ano yung value na pinuproduce kapag pumipindot tayo. So, value of button. Lagay tayo dito ng button value na lang. Plus the value. Ayun. Diba? Now, if the value is actually low, or sige, ganyan muna para mas maintindihan natin, no? And so value is actually an integer. So let's try to run the code and let's go to the serial monitor. Then yung button value, kung napansin nyo, walang nangyayari, no? Yan, pero gumagana na. Napipindot na natin. Pero syempre, lalagyan natin yan ng value later on. Sige. Di ba? So, hindi pa kasi tapos yung code natin. Punta tayo dito. If, of course, if value is actually in low, what will happen? Otherwise, yan. So, if, for example, nagpumindot tayo dito ng buzzer, yan, either mag-on siya or mag-off siya. As simple as that. A very, very simple way on how to do this. Diba? So, in pin, which is in 12, buzzer, which is in 7. Tama ba? Buzzer natin is 12. Ay, baliktad nga, no? So, this is 12, this is 7 pala. Yan. Kaya pala. So, buzzer, si switch. Nalito tuloy ako. Si buzzer natin, this is positive, na kay 7. Oo nga. Tama pala yun. Yan. 7 and 12. Okay. So, tingnan natin kung ano mangyayari. Yan, di ba? Sa kapag papindot, yun, nagsiswitch na siya. Pero wala pang nagpapakitang value dito. Ang weird ang tunog naman. Yan. So, we can actually use this one, the serial.println, dito. Para every time lang na pumipindot, doon nagkakaroon ng value. Pero, hindi kasi magpakita si value natin eh. Parang, bakit uton value ang nakalagay? No? Uton value. Actually, ito, pwede natin tong ipunta dito eh, kay Val. So, pwede mo siyang ilagay yung pag-read ng in-pin natin or nung pag-read ng number 12 natin dito mismo kay void setup. That is also possible in Arduino. Okay? So, we have created here a project that will simply buzz a sound once we have clicked a button. Pero, hindi pa siya totally gumagana as a buzzing sound. So, let's actually create here. Let me show you an alternative way for us to create a project that will now produce a sound every button click. Okay? So, punta tayo dito. Meron tayong breadboard. Meron tayong Arduino board. We have here buzzer, the piezo buzzer. Okay? Mas maganda kung i-ano ko tong piezo buzzer natin. Yan. Ano natin yan para mas okay. So, ganyan siya kay letter H. And this time, I want to place here 3 different buttons. Ayan, challenge, no? 3 button. Ayan. Is it even possible for us to do this? Yes, possible po na maglagay tayo ng 3 button. Pero syempre, kayo ang magtutuloy nito. Performance task ito eh. Pero syempre, pinapakita ko lang kung paano siya gawin. Now, the negative. Let's connect the negative here. Connect natin ito munang si negative. Papunta siguro kay number 8. Ito, kay number 8. Let's change the color. Yan. Tapos si positive, lagyan natin ng resistor itong positive na to. Para cool. Andyan. Let's actually try to not change the value of the resistor for now. Para yung ma-maximize natin yung number yung sound mismo. I-jump natin to kasi. I-jump natin to lahat, tong tatlong to kay 5 volts ng minsanan. Alright. So first of all, let's work on with the terminal 1B. Itong mga terminal 1B natin. Let's place there a resistor. Lahat sila kay negative. Ayan. Lahat sila kay negative. Na pantay-pantay po yan, no? So, lahat sila kay negative. And naka-jump yan dito. And for the terminal 2B, this one, the terminal 2B, Ito, let's put here a pin. Lagay natin ngayon this time. Oops, mali. This time kay positive. Dito. Let me change the color to like red. Okay. And there you go. So yung 2B nandito, 2B nandito, 2B nandito. Alright. So goods. Pwede ganyan. Now, dito tayo ngayon. I-connect kasi natin sila lahat minsanan kay 5 volts. Diba? Kay 5 volts. So, in order for us to do that, itong mga positive na to kasi, ito, the connection here and the connection here is actually the same. Remember that. Okay? The connection here and connection here is actually the same. That's why, pwede tayo ngayon maglagay dyan ng linya or a pin. And so, I have included there a pin. The connection of the negative here will also be the same with the connection of the negative below the breadboard. So, maglagay tayo dito ng negative. Lagay din tayo dito ng negative. So, positive, positive. Next, si negative, since negative po yan, we have to remember that all negative should always be connected to, saan nga ba natin siya i-connect? Kay ground, di ba? So, huwag natin kakalimutan, kay ground po lagi ang connection ni negative. Yan. Kay ground ang connection ni negative. Si positive, ano ang kinoconnect natin dito? We are trying to connect this one. Kung natatandaan yung ganina, ito, we tried to connect this one papunta kay mismong 5 volts natin. Ayan, parang ito, binaliktad ko lang, pero possible yan, di ba? So, ito, kay 5 volts. In this case, yung terminal 2B niya nakakonect kay buzzer. Pero this time, yung terminal 2B nakakonect kay positive, pero si positive, nag-jump yan dito sa positive, and this time, we will be connecting this one to the 5 volts to power up. Of course, to power up the buzzers. Sa ganyan, ha? Exciting. Exciting, ano? Yan. Ayan siya. Next, anong magandang gawin ditong susunod? We will now be connecting the button individually to A0, A1, and A2. So first of all, I would like to connect this A1. Kukonect ko muna tong si A1 natin. Let's connect that one to the analog pin 0. Let's change the value to green. Next, I will now be connecting the button number 2, this button number 2 to A1. Ayan, turquoise. Or should I say, siguro blue na lang din. And the button number 3, this one, kay A3. Ayun, perfect. Mahirap ba ang circuit? Hindi, napakadali, di ba? Baka basic. Basta ang tip ko lang sa inyo pagdating sa circuits, Arduino, you have to remember how positives and negatives are working. So, saan nyo nga ba dapat sila ikabit? Diba? So, si negative, lagi po yung nakakonect. Si negative kasi, madalas, most of the time, kinoconnect natin yung kay ground. Diba? Kay negative, negative to ground. So, pasok na tayo. Punta na tayo sa may part ng, what you call this one, sa may code natin. So, for the code simulation, let me pull up this one. I-remove ko tong mga to. So, I want you to take a screenshot, ha, of the things that we are doing. Oops. Nasaan yung Google? Ayan. Nasaan yung natin? Ayun. Ito muna. Arduino projects. Okay. So, in the setup, or before the void setup and before the void loop itself, we have to declare the variable. Of course, we have here the position to 0. Lagay muna natin yan si position natin to 0. What we are trying to do here is actually to recreate a sound every button press. Diba? So, in position 0, as is lang muna yan. Now, for the void setup, this is where we will be placing the 4 different inputs. So we have A0 input. We also have A1 input and A2 input. So A1, A2 input. And we are still missing one, which is the buzzer. Si buzzer natin, na kanino tong buzzer na to? Na kay pin number 8. So, pin mode. Labi nating 8. Take note, hindi ako nag-declare ng variable para kay buzzer. Pero pwede nyo kasing ilagay lang dyan kung saan digital pin nakalagay. Si buzzer. So, in this case, nasa 8 yan. Okay. Now, if, pagdating dito kay void loop natin, if we actually tried pressing the first button, if A0 is pressed, okay, it will now produce a sound, a specific sound. So, na-search nyo ba sa internet yung mga different, frequency, the different frequency hertz natin? Hopefully, na-research siya, no, kung ano yung mga frequency, natin. So, in this case, I will only play a key of A. Okay, key of A natin. Tingnan nga natin ng frequency. Musical notes, frequency scale. Dito tayo. Ayun, frequency scale natin. So, kung mag-start ako kay A4 in particular, that is 440. So, kung do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do ang project nyo, of course, you will start from C4, D4, E4, F4, G4. Kapag ka scale of A kasi, medyo mag-iiba ang natin. So, pag scale of A, that is A, B, C sharp. Yeah. Ewan ko kung yung mga medyo marunong sa music dyan, you should, di ba, you know, music theory, if in case. So, if that is key of A, you have notes like A, B, C sharp, D, diba? E, F sharp, G sharp, and go back to A. So, kapag C, madali lang. C, D, E, F, G, A, B. C, D lang. So, same lang. Magpo-produce pa rin sila ng tinatawag natin na do, re, mi sound. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do na sound natin. So, gusto ko dito, kapag prines ko to, magpo-produce siya ng A sound. In order for us to do that, we have here an if statement. Okay. If the digital read A0 is actually being pressed. Yan. Yan, diba? So, if A0 is pressed, i-read natin. I-read natin si button. So, if this is pressed, that is high. Therefore, we will now be calling the tone function in Arduino, which I actually discussed last week. So, the tone will now have an 8-note rest. Okay, with a 440 frequency and a volume of 100. Those are the parameters inside the tone functionality or the tone method. So you have here the rest. This is an 8-note. We have a 440 and 100. Tingnan nga natin. Hopefully gumana na to, no? Let's continue. So, siguro lagay na rin tayo dito ng like konting delay. Like 10 delay para may konting delay sa may pag-press natin. Yan. So, this should work. Hopefully. Ayun. Ayan, di ba? So, yun yung delay. Kaya tayo naglagay ng delay. So, kapag change itong value ng tone dito, like for example, mas mababa, like 0 or 1 na lang. Well, di ba wala? Yan, hindi siya magpuproduce ng sound. Pero kapag ka 8 or 32, for example, hindi rin nag-produce ng sound. So, 8 talaga siya. Kung 4, tingnan natin. Hindi rin nag-produce ng sound. So, 8 talaga siya dapat. Yan. Alright, so let's try to recreate the next part of our circuits here. We have the button, the two buttons. For the two different buttons, ganun din, if A1 is pressed, what will happen? If A1 is pressed, of course, a B note will eventually happen. So that is B4. So that is like 494 as its frequency. And for B4. Diba? Tan, 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 tan. So, 4 pala dapat yun. 3 lang ang pwede kong gawin para pakita as example. So, this is copy-paste lang natin dito. If ang na-press is A1, the second note, we will now be playing a B note, which has a frequency of 494 and a volume of that one. Okay? If ang na-press dito is A2, we will now be playing C5, which is for 523 hertz. So this is A2, this is A3, this is for 523. Okay. So, sure na yan. Gagana na yan. Lagyan natin yan dyan. Yan. So, it's turned on. Pareho pala kasi, no? Ulitin natin. 494, A1, A2, A3. A1, wala palang A3. So, this should be 494. This should be 523. Yan. So, madali lang yan. Kapag kalalagyan nyo pa ng isang button or magiging 7 buttons yan eh. Pinakita ko na yung sagot, no? Actually, para ma-achieve nyo ang Do, Re, Mi, huwag kayong mag-start sa key of A. This is key of A eh. C. This is C. Alright. So, mag-start na lang kayo sa key of C para ma-achieve nyo. Kasi dapat ito, this should be C sharp. So, 554. Change natin para mag-Do, Re, Mi. Do, Re, Mi, Fa, So, 500. Sakto ko na lang. Pwede naman. Yun, sakto na lang natin. Yun, Do, Re, Mi. Diba? Sir, musician ka ba? Yes po. Do, Mi. Yun, so Fa. Fa is C sharp. Of course, D, that is 587.33 frequency. Do, Re, Mi, Fa. And Fa. Yeah. Sir, let's play music together someday? Yes, sure. Let's play together. Mag-piano ka, I'll do violin, no? Para mas maganda. Coding plus music theory in one. Yeah, this is really good actually. Pagka marunong kang code tapos marunong ka or alam mo rin ng music theory, maganda. So again, I suggest you start from C4. Huwag po tayo mag-start sa A4 lalo kung hindi kayo familiar sa music theory. Sa of course, the circle of fifths na tinatawag natin sa music theory. And yeah, so we have here the circle of fifths. So kapag sinabi mong A, yung major mo, of course, you have to follow some specific chart here. And A, B, C sharp, and D flat, E flat, blah, 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 blah. Basta, yun. Diba? So kayo na magtuloy nito. Start from C, end with C. So, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. Lang naman siya. Okay, question so far? And this is one of your projects, no? In our module number 4. So let me just pull out your performance check number 4 para makita natin yung mga projects natin na gagawin. So this is actually one of your project. Now, for the question number 1, create and program a circuit that would allow a potentiometer control 3 LED brightness. Madali lang ito. I have shown you earlier how to do with 1 LED brightness. So madali lang yan kapag 3. So question number 2 here, create and program a circuit that simulates a piano sound for each button. So yun nga. Again, start from C note. Yeah, you can do recrolls. Diba? So you can actually do recrolls dito. Like na pagka pumindot ka, dali lang. May specific notes lang din yun na susundin. Tan. Basta yun. Okay, so let's proceed with the question number 3. Hindi ko to totally gagawin, pero this is somehow a challenge for everyone kasi this will also serve as your project. No, why recrolls daw? Yan, so Yeah, yung number 4 ang pinaka-challenge dito. Pero yung number 3, dito muna tayo sa number 3. Create and program a circuit that simulates a dice. A random number between 1 to 6 will be generated to a 7-segment display and the corresponding number of LEDs will light up. So, you have here 6 different LEDs in your breadboard. So, imagine your breadboard here, you have 6 LEDs. So, automatic, every time na nag-run yung program mo, every time na ini-start natin yung simulation, a random number will be generated. Paano nga ba mag-generate ng random values sa Arduino? A simple Google search will do actually. Arduino random numbers. We have here, like the same with Java. Ang Java kasi we have math.random. Ganon din kay Arduino. So we have here random, which is min and max. So minimum means the lower bound, which automatically 1 yan. The maximum bound is actually 6. So whatever value na pinuproduce ni random, so you will actually like declare a variable like int number equals random 1, 6, something like that, di ba? So kung ano man yung ibabato nyo na value dito, saka ngayon, magla-light up din yung number ng LEDs. So, if the value is 1, of course, the number of LEDs will light up into 1. If the value is 2, the number of the 2 LEDs will light up, and so on. But the challenge there is how are you going to print that in the 7-segment display? So, yung pinag-aralan nating 7-segment display last week. Diba? Although, pinakita ko na sa inyo yung code ng 7-segment display, all you have to do here is actually for you to place the code, the entire code, the highs and lows code of the 7-segment display inside your if statement. So kapag ang lumabas na value pala is 1, say for example, this one, di ba? I mean ito, pag 0, pag 1, yan. So ito yung magiging code ninyo for the 7-segment display. Just like Java, you can do this. For example, you have here a method like print 1. Yan. So, pwede nyo rin kasing gawin yan. So, parang Java, pwede kayo ditong gumawa ng print 1 method kung saan yung itong mga to nandito na. O, di ba? So, parang Java rin yan. Pwede po. Pero syempre, void ito. Wala kasing return type. Wala tayong nire-return na value. Kuha ba natin? So, again, think of our Arduino Sketch programming or the C++ programming like Java programming pa rin. Diba? So, ganun din yun. Alright, so let's proceed with our next topic here. Okay. We have, let's say, the buzzer, the push button, the switch, and the LED. So, this time we have like three different components in our Arduino board. So let me go ahead and pull up this one. Okay. So this is actually a buzzer. So as you can see, this is in color red. It has a button and also have a speaker. Tapos meron ka rin dito nakikita na LED. So that's actually the combination of buzzer, button, and LED at the same time. And this is what we call fire alarms. So the fire alarm system or fire alarm itself, it's actually used to give us an idea that there is a fire in a certain establishment or area. Now, what's the importance or the important parts of the fire alarm? We have switch, the buzzer, and of course, LED. How fire alarm works? Paano nga ba ito gumagana? It simply works by simply pressing a pull down sign, ito, di ba? We are pressing that one, and the device will start making noise while the red light will also turn on. You know what? When I was a student, I always dreamed of pulling prank dun sa mga fire alarm natin sa UC. Gusto ko siyang pindutin lagi, pero feeling ko mapapagalitan ako eh. Kasi magwawang-wang daw siya. But once you click on this one. Yan. So that is fire alarm. So, ito, let me insta-suspend. No? Yeah, nakakatakot pero yeah, gusto ko siyang gawin. Just for you to have an idea, this is one of the best project na pwede nating magawa sa gamit ang buzzer and LED and of course a switch. Diba? Pati sir, yung may alarm na emergency exit o ngay dun sa may animation lab, meron dun sa may gilid mismo. Diba? Now, going back, siguro para may idea kayo, no? Para may idea kayo sa mga gagawin ninyong prototype. Some prototypes might look like this one. This is actually a very easy type of prototype. Actually, kahit nga karton lang ito eh. Tapos isiksik-siksik nyo lang yung mga LED dito. Tapos you have the liquid crystal display nandito. And we have 4 buttons. So you already know how to create buttons, right? So, since you already know how to create buttons, magkumuha lang kayo ng mga pin dyan. Diba? Kumuha lang kayo ng mga pin, yung mga mahaba. Connect nyo sa loob ng breadboard. Something like that. So, this is actually this project was developed using or combining the LED, the buzzers, and switch button. So kapag pinindot mo si yellow, of course, mag-on si yellow. Pag pinindot mo si red, mag-on si red. Pag pinindot mo si green, mag-on to. Eto, mag-on to. Now, for simulation purposes, you can actually pwede kasi kayo ditong maglagay ng ito. Punta tayo dito sa all. Yung mga starters natin. Pwede kasi kayong maglagay ng mga text para may palatandaan kayo kung ano nga ba yung gusto nyong ilagay mismo. Yeah? Kung ano yung gusto nyong ilagay dito sa ano nyo, sa mismong Arduino ninyo. Diba? So that's possible. Saka na natin pero pag-uusapan yun. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about this combination project. We have the following. Palakihin ko lang ulit. Ayan. So you have the buzzer, you have the button switch, and the LED. LED, the cathode is connected to the positive, which is connected to the ground this time. Tapos si anode natin, connected to number 10. Si button switch natin, connected siya kay negative, which simply needs 5 volts power. And connected siya kay number 13. Tapos si buzzer natin, of course, negative is connected to the ground. And si positive is connected to the buzzer and at the same time connected to number 7. So we have 3 different pins. If we try to run the program, it will now produce the following output. So kapag pinindot ko yan, automatic na nagsa-sound. Ito. Yan. Automatic na nagsa-sound and nag-on, nag-off si buzzer. Si LED natin. Pero binaliktad ko lang ito. Ha? Binaliktad ko lang ito. Yan. So, how are we going to do that? It's actually very easy as well. So, meron ka lang din ditong gagawing series of if-else statements. Parang ito. Ito nakikita nyo ngayon dito. No? First of all, you have to ilagay natin dito kay Ana para mas makita ng lahat. Ayun. First of all, you have to declare the following variables. You have buzzer, pin button 1, which is the button, and the pin LED 1. Ayan. So, once you click on once you are done with this one, dito tayo kay void setup. Alam naman na natin si void setup, di ba? But, take note, I have placed here the setup. Inside the setup pa lang, si pin button 1 is automatically turned on. Di ba? Naka-turn on. Para kapag pinindot ko siya, gusto ko mag-off. Now, in the sense of your project later on, your DICE project, which is also a challenging one. Your DICE project, kahit wala pong button, okay lang. Para hindi kayo masyadong mahirapan. Pero if you want to add a button to your DICE project, every time na pumipindot tayo ng button, nag-change yung value ng number. Diba? Mas maganda. Siyempre, may mga plus points kapag ka nag-go beyond extra mile tayo. Yeah? So, initially, the LED is turned on. And let's go dito sa may part na to. If the pin button 1, if this pin button is actually not being pressed. If it is not being pressed, therefore, the LED 1 will always turn on. And otherwise, pagka pinindot mo na yan, mag-on si buzzer, mag-off si buzzer, si LED 1, mali tong comment ko. Si LED 1 mag-off, si ilaw natin mag-off, tapos magkakaroon din ng series of if statement inside that one. So, natuto tayo na mag-ayos ng code natin, no, sa loob ng 2 taon. So, at least try to apply all of those coding fundamentals that we had, especially the spacing, diba? The spacing. So, if the digital read, the bin button is pressed, if the digital button is pressed, the buzzer will now turn on with a very simple delay, a very fast delay, 1 millisecond. and it will eventually turn off. Otherwise, yan, otherwise, the buzzer will turn off afterwards. Ganun lang siya. Now, try to modify this program in such a way na alternate naman. Initially, yung buzzer ang nag-on. Like, merong sound dito na recroll, for example. Tapos, papinindot nyo si buzzer, si button, saka siya mag-off. Yan. So, try nyong i-integrate yung ginawa natin kanina na tone with the tone, di ba? Together with this one. Kung paano nyo siya gagawin. Ano lang yan? It's a matter of how you practice yourself. Hopefully nga binibigyan nyo ng time, binibigyan nyo ng enough time ang subject natin, especially after our classes, because this is a very, what you call this one, you guys are so lucky na kayo ang pinaka nauna sa buong UC batch natin na nagkaroon ng Arduino subject, to be honest, in online classes. So talagang first time to actually sa senior high school ng UC na meron ito. So, hopefully, binibigyan natin ng oras, no? Para mas natututo tayo ng mga ganito. Tsaka, di ba? Ang ganda naman. Exciting, kumbaga. Alright, so that will be a challenge for everybody. Now, I think that will be the last part of my presentation here. Let's talk about the question number 4, which is the most challenging. I can say that this is actually indeed the most challenging problem of all, because you will be modifying your traffic light simulation. Pero this time, there is a 7-segment display, that will simply serve as a countdown. Remember, you have this also serve as your performance check. Last week, nagkaroon kayo ng countdown, pero this time descending order. So you started from 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I-retain nyo pa rin yung code nyo doon. But this time, a button should also be added to manually change the light every time it changes. Okay? So, mali lang yung pagkakaano dito. Manually change the light change. I-edit ko nga. Okay, again. Kapag hindi nyo pinindot si button, si 7-segment display, yan, si 7-segment display natin, automatic na nagka-countdown yan. So, from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Diba? Nag-change siya. Although, kapag ka naglagay ka ngayon ng button, once you click on the button, automatic, the 7-segment display will now change back to number 5, and all of the lights will also change. That's the challenge there. Diba? Madali lang. Gawin nyo muna siguro yung wala munang button. Diba? Lalagyan nyo muna ng 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 na countdown bago mag-change ng ilaw. Now, there is also a countdown timer kay Arduino. And so, a very simple project here. You can actually do this on your own. So, may mga countdown timer kasi tayo, 'di ba? Na project sa online. So, if you are lucky enough, or if you want to have this one, pwede yun namang matutunan. Although, paano nga ba tayo maglagay ng countdown sa project natin? One word, delay. Diba? By simply putting delay 1,000 milliseconds, that simply means that you are also putting 1 second delay in between the light changes. Yeah? Pero this time, yung delay na yun, magiging 7-segment display na yun. Yun. So, lastly, add a serial monitor to better visualize the flow of events in the traffic light, which is madali lang. Nyo lang. Ipapakita nyo lang kung ano na yung mga nag-on, nag-off, diba? Na part ng natin, ng project natin sa Arduino. Okay? So far, so good? Okay, let me show you another example project. Let us create another example project here na kahit papano para magkaroon tayo ng idea on how this works. Yung nagpa-pulsate na lampara. Alam niyo yun, di ba? Nagpa-pulsate, kumbaga gumaganyan. That's a very easy project. Let's name this one as pulsating lamp. Tapos let's have our Arduino dito. Tapos lagay tayo dito ng LED. And we will try to pulsate. Okay? Tapos, ito ngayon, lagay tayo ng resistor. Yan, lagay tayo ng resistor dito. Diyan ko na nga ilagay yan. Dito na lang. Ayan. Tapos, ilagay natin to kay number 11. Tapos, ito, lagay ko kay ground. Gawin natin black. Ayan. So, as simple as that. Now, for the code, it's also very easy. We will try to apply here some mathematical functions. Diba? Like the built-in mathematical functions in Arduino. First of all, let's declare the LED pin. LED pin equals 11. Tapos, let's have here a float variable which is the sign value. Tapos, we have here the LED val. Yan. Tapos, for the setup, let's put here pin mode, LED pin, output. Yun. Tapos, for the loop, ang loop natin dito medyo, yan, pagka maglalagay tayo ng for loop, ganito na yan. So, parang Java din. So, you will be declaring the start of your loop, the end of your loop, which is, I think this will be until 180. So, iikot kasi, nagpa-pulsate yan. X++. And this time, it will now convert the degrees to radians and will now then obtain a particular sign value. So, paano mangyari yan? Yung sign value natin na dineclare natin as variable, we will be converting that into a very, not really complicated mathematical function, pero it's a built-in mathematical function kasi. So, the sign value, yan, sign formula, multiplied by the 3.14 or the value of the pi, divided by 180. Ibig sabihin, paikot. Diba? Paikot kasi yan. Umiikot. Gusto natin na paulit-ulit. Umiikot. So, 3.14 divided by 180. Yan. That's the sign value. So, sign, pero nakalimutan ko maglagay dito ng x multiplied by the value of 3.14 divided by 1. Yan, okay. Perfect. So, yun, x times 3.1412 divided by 180. That. And we have here the LED value, which actually is the value of the sign multiplied by 255, the maximum rotation. Tapos, isulat natin yan, analog write, LED pin, LED val, and let's place here a delay value. And so, lagay natin yan dito. Let's simulate the code. Di naman siya nakikita, pero tumitibok yan. Okay? Titibok-tibok yan sa personal. Tumitibok. Yun, mahina lang, Nagtitibok-tibok-tibok. Yan. So, pwede kasi tayo maglagay ng mga mathematical functions kagaya nito para mas maging maayos yung magiging, maglalagay ka siguro ng additional part ng problem or ng code mo. So, yan. Ganun po ang sa mga may physical Arduino kit, mas maganda kung gawin nyo to in person. Okay? Let me also show you some more projects para mas makita natin yung importance ng mga programming side. So, I would like to focus the next set of our projects here sa may programming side naman. Di ba? Para mas maintindihan natin. So, gamit tayo dito ng mga LED, tatlong LED, and this time, let's create what we call the LED fire effect. Parang gumaganyan. Although, hindi lang siya magpapakita dito totally sa may Tinkercad, pero sa may mismong physical kit, this is really effective. Yan. So, LED fire effect tayo. LED fire effect. This is also another way for us to modify or create our projects. We have here 3 LED. And siguro gawin natin this LED is like yellow. So, maglagay din tayo dito ng panibagong LED which is red. Maglagay din tayo dito ng LED which is yellow. Yan. So, gawin natin, Let's put a resistor here. Dito. Resistor natin dito. Lagay ulit tayo ng panibagong resistor dito. Panibago ulit dito. So mga physical Arduino kits, napaka-cute nito. Ang ganda ng effect nito kasi pagka sa mga physical kits natin. And so ito magiging dito yan. So gawin nating black. The anode or the cathode will be here. Jump natin lahat yan kay GND. Ito. I-ground natin yan dito kay GND. And ito naman, si anode natin, we'll be connecting them to 11, 10, 9. So ito, this will be in 11. Red natin yan. Ito in 10. Ito in number 9. So ganyan siya. Yeah? So 11, 10, 9, we have here, we have the following. So sa code naman, medyo napakadali ng code nito, pero I would like to show you how you call this one, how random values work in the sense of coding. Pag nagra-random values tayo. So i-declare natin yung mga variables natin. 9, we have 10, we also have 11. Ayan. For the void setup, of course, we have pin mode, LED pin 1. 1, 2, 3. And LED pin 1. Output natin. Let's copy. And let's paste that. LED pin 2, LED pin 3. And there you go. So, this time, sa loop natin, analog tayo. Analog right. LED pin 1. This time, we will be using a random values. Okay? Ano yung gusto nating makuha dito? Random values from 0 to 120. And so, kung ano man yung value na lumabas dito, we will be adding 135 value. Ang gusto lang natin dito para magkaroon lang ng fire effect, ganun lang. We will be doing that 3 times. LED pin 1, LED pin 2, LED pin 3. Yan. Tapos ito 120, 120 yan. Diba? Tapos lagay tayo ng delay na like random value din yung delay natin na up to 100. Ganyan lang kung gusto niyo gumamit. Pero kung gusto niyo specific yung value natin, like from 50 to 100 milliseconds, pwede niyo naman gawin yan. Pero ito from 0 to 100 lang yung delay natin. Diba? Hopefully gumana to. Ito kasi gumana to dati sa physical Arduino kit natin. May error tayo. Int. Anong int kasi? Int dapat. Ayan. Medyo weird lang kasi ayun, no? Hindi lang nakikita pero tumitibok, oh. Nakikita ba sa inyo? Actually, kitang-kita ko rito. Siguro try ko na lang anuhin yung mga resistor values natin. Hindi sumobra eh. Gawin ko na lang siguro 330. Ayun, nakikita. 330. Nakikita ba sa inyo? Actually, yun o. Umaano na siya. Tumitibok-tibok. Para siyang nagpa-pulsate din. Pero, nagpo-produce lang siya ng random values. Diba? Nagpo-produce siya ng random values. Tapos, yun yung pinoproduce niya na output niya. Any question so far? May papakita pa akong last na project ng LED natin para mas maintindihan natin kung paano gumagana or paano natin mas mapaganda yung code natin sa Arduino. Question. Sige, magtanong lang muna kayo para at least maano natin. Ayan, kakapihin nyo ba? Ayan, kapihin nyo yung ano natin dyan. Okay, so this is actually one of my favorite project in Arduino. Lalo kapag maglalagay tayo ng mga napakadaming LED. Like, yung mga sa peryahan, yung chase effect na tinatawag natin ng LED. So, we have here this one. Last na to, no? Ano lang tayo ng konti. Yan. This one and this one. Say for example, sir, paano kapag gagamit kami ng 10 LED? Yan. Challenge, no? 10 LED naman ang gusto kong pailawin. So, this is how you do it. So, you have here one LED. You have the second one. Lagay natin dito. Lagay natin 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. For those who have like a physical Arduino kit, this is a very fun project for you to recreate. And so you have 10 different LEDs. All of those cathodes yan, will be connected to the negative. So, connect natin to lahat. Oops. Connect natin to kay negative. Connect natin kay negative. Connect din natin kay negative. Lahat to, connect natin. Di ba ang saya ng Tinkercad? Kasi buti na lang, alam nyo, buti na may Tinkercad ngayon. Nung panahon namin, kailangan napabili talaga kami ng Arduino kit. Required ang bumili ng Arduino kit noon. Pero at least ngayon, kahit wala kayong Arduino kit, pwede nyo magawa. But, you are missing the experience. Yun lang, no? You are really missing the experience. Yan. So, si anode, I am putting a resistor just beside the anode. Yan. Isa-isa natin lalagay yung mga ano natin. And there you go. Okay. Now, just beside the resistors, ito munang negative. Let's work on with the negative here. Since negative yan, connect natin kay ground. There you go. Okay. So, all of the LEDs will now be assigned to the pin from 4 up to 13. So, from 4 to 13 naman yan. So, change natin yung ano natin into red. So, ito. Let's place it in 4. Let's place this in 5. Let's place this in 6. This is in 7. This is in 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13. Wow, pretty. Ganda, no? Cute ang itsura. Ayan, so ganyan lang. Negative, lagay natin to, gawin natin black para, yan. Para may color coding. The challenge here is actually the coding part. Yung coding part natin, sige, i-copy nyo muna. Tapos habang code tayo dito sa gilid. The coding part, I will be introducing, some techniques, some programming techniques. Say for example, kapag array. Say for example, lagay tayo ng array, no? In a sense of array in programming, it actually works the same as Java. So, let's declare their data type. Tapos, pangalanan natin yan as LED pin. Tapos, let's place natin an array. So, just like Java, di ba? Meron kang open and closing brackets. Tapos, meron ka ring open and closing curly braces. So, ang LED pin natin dito, instead na i-declare natin siya isa-isa, ilalagay na lang natin siya sa loob ng array. So, starting from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, until 13. Starting from 4 to 13. Ayan. Tapos, maglagay na rin tayo siguro dito ng delay. LED. Dito pa lang, ilagay na natin yung delay na 65. The value. Tapos, yung direction natin, right direction from right, that is 1. And so, si direction natin, it's actually a built-in Arduino. Tignan natin, no? It's actually a keyword, by the way. 1, -1 ko kasi yan. And indicating a keyword. And so, pwede rin nyo rin siyang gamitin as a compass. Yeah? So, yan. We also have here a variable that will point or that will serve as a pointer for the current LED. So, kung ano man yung current LED na nagpapakita, ilalagay natin yan dito and we'll have a value of 0. So, kung ang LED natin nakapoint yan dito, kasi umaandar yan from a direction of 1, papunta yan dito. Papunta yan dito. So, kung ano yung nakapoint, magiging current LED natin is 0. Tapos magpa-+1 ng magpa-+1 ng magpa-+1 tayo. Nagets nyo yung idea? Let's now put here a long change time. Pero ilagay tayo ng unsigned long change time. So, as is muna yan. Unsigned long change time natin. So, for the void setup, it's also this is actually where we will be setting up the pin mode. Diba? Instead of us putting here a pin mode na individual, pin mode na isa-isa, why not utilize the use of array? So, instead of doing that, pwede na tayo mag-array. So, starting from the pin mode, let's start from x is equal to 0, x is less than 10, and of course, x plus plus. Tapos yung pin mode natin dito, of course, yung pin mode natin, the pin mode is the LED pin starting from 0 and starting from x as output. O, diba? Pinaiksin natin yung code natin. Imbis na mag-pin mode 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tayo. So, why not use for loop? Ako kasi favorite ko to sa lahat ng aspects ng programming, even in game development. I love using loops. Tapos, yung change time natin, yan, we will now be calling the millis. Yan, the millis function in Arduino. So, ano nga ba si millis function? It simply returns the number of milliseconds passed since the Arduino board began running the current program. So, this number will overflow, go back to 0, approximately 50 days. Diba? So, ilalagay natin kasi yung milli na yan, ibabato kasi natin. So, yung number ng seconds, once sa umandar na yan, ibabato natin yan dito kay change time. So, mabilis yan. Actually, it's like milliseconds ang bato niyan. Okay, so yung milliseconds dito yan pupunta kay change time. Now, here's the exciting part. Inside the void loop, first of all, we will be turning off all of the LED. Turn off muna natin lahat ng LED na parts. So, para gawin natin yan, let's create here int x is equal to 0, equal to 10, di ba? Dapat master na tayo ng for loop ngayon pa lang. Yan. So, let's turn off. Paano tayo mag-turn off? Digital write. Diba? Tapos, LED pin starting from 0 or starting from 4, low. Oh, diba? Easy. Digital write, LED pin, X, low. Turn off natin sila. Now, we will be turn on the current LED. We will be turning on the current LED. Ano nga ba yung current LED natin? The current LED so far, as of the moment, is actually 0. So, andito siya. Naka-point yan kay LED pin number 4 or number 13 kung saan natin siya gustong ilagay. Pero pakita ko muna to. Digital write, LED pin. Tapos si current LED natin together with a high value. Yan. So, turn on current LED. And initially, what we are trying to do here is from the start of our pin, okay, isa-isa nating i-increment ngayon yung current LED natin. Nagagets ba? Ang pag-i-increment natin dito is using the direction. So, ang current LED kasi natin dito is 0. So, lalagyan natin yan ng 0. I-add natin yung 1 dito. So, magiging LED pin 1. Magpapoint na yan kay 5. So, magiging LED pin 6. Magpapoint na yan dito. So, papunta na yan dito. Hanggang sa bumalik yan dito. So, let's create here the increment code. Increment. That is now the current LED plus or equals. Or we can just simply say current LED is equal to current LED plus the direction. Or, ako kasi hindi ako sanay na ganyan magsulat ng code. Mas gusto ko na current LED plus equals na lang. Yeah? Direction. Current LED plus equals direction. Now, if it reached a certain part of our direction, kapag ka nandito na yan siguro sa may 13, pag nandito na, this is in number 9, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, kapag ka na-reach niya na si 9, simple lang, si direction will now be negative 1. Okay? Nagets ba natin? Pababa naman, pag ganun naman, palipat-lipat lang. Diba? So, this is how you change the direction. If the current LED is equal to 9, we will now be changing the direction to negative 1. Tapos, pagkabalik natin dito, yung current LED natin will now be subtracted by -1 or magma-minus ng 1 yan. So kapag na-reach na natin dito yung current LED na 1, magma-minus si 1 dyan. So 98765432100 012345678998 blah blah blah. Paulit-ulit. Diba? So current LED natin dyan. Okay, direction is -1. Let's copy that. Meanwhile, if na-reach niya ulit si 0, ibalik natin kay 1 ulit. Di ba? Parang magic ng programming, no? So, ganyan siya. Ngayon, the good thing about this one, babalik yun ulit dito. Since nasa loob yun ng loop, babalik yun dito kay turn off all LED. So, whatever LED is actually turned on after changing the direction, it will automatically turn off. So, let's try to check if this is working. Continue. Ito yung exciting na part pagka i-run na natin Papakita ba? Parang hindi, no? Try natin. Bakit? Change natin to. Or baka may mali lang ako sa code natin. Pero basically, this should actually work. May nakalimutan ako. Okay. So, we have here void loop. Tanggalin ko muna to. Inside the void loop, kaya yan hindi gumagana, okay? We have here the milliseconds. Dito na lang. Si milliseconds natin will now be changing the time, okay? It will now change the time to LED delay. Oo, hindi pa yan totally gumagana kasi yung delay niya. Wala pa. Ayan. So, for as long as si milli minus change time is greater than the LED delay. The LED delay is 65 so far. Then this time we will be calling a method change LED that will now simply call once again the milliseconds. So, nagtawag tayo ng panibagong method dito. So if that's the case, we have here change LED method in which we will be placing the code earlier. Nakalimutan ko sa loob ng void loop. So, ganun din yon. Basically, sa loob pa rin ito ng loop, pero tinatawag nyo lang yan as a separate method. Di ba? Ang dami nating natakal na concepts ng programming. So, change LED, change time millis, and turn off LED. Try natin. Okay. May error tayo dito. In function, void loop. Tingnan natin kung bakit. May error tayo dito. Millis. Ayun. Kulang lang ako ng open and closing parenthesis. So, dapat meron dito sa loob. Ayan. Dito. Okay. Sure na ako dito. Ayun. There you go. So, as you can see, our code is properly working. Change ko yung resistance para mas makita natin yung pag-ilaw ng mga natin. Yeah, so Merry Christmas. Yan. 1 ohm para mapundi in real life. Pero I suggest 220 or 330 ang gawin ninyo. Okay? So, yan na po. Working na po ang ating Arduino project. This is the code. And for the next week, starting next week, we will be proceeding with the level 2 ng ating Arduino discussion. This is only basic kasi gumagamit lang tayo ng mga LED. For the next part, medyo mag-level up tayo ng konti. No? Maglalagay na tayo ng mga sensors and every other tools na pwede nating magamit. Alright, questions so far? Especially with regards your immersion project? Wala naman?